We're so glad you've returned for today's session. And today, we're going to dive into something that's incredibly important, yet often overlooked: the strength and beauty of stability, particularly when it comes to relationships. Now, as we move into today's topic, I want to touch on something that many of us have either experienced personally or know someone who has difficult relationships. Whether it's with a parent or a partner, emotional or physical abuse leaves scars that run deep. You might not have realized it at the time, but maybe you've been walking on eggshells around someone. Maybe their mood shifts faster than you can keep up, and you've found yourself tiptoeing around, trying to avoid anything that might set them off. If your life has ever felt like it revolves around keeping one person happy, or if the thought of losing them feels like it would destroy you, you might have been in an unhealthy relationship. It's exhausting, it's painful, and it's an emotional roller coaster that, paradoxically, can become almost addictive. For many of us who grew up in unstable or abusive homes, our greatest fear is repeating that pattern in our relationships as adults. And yet, despite our best efforts, it happens more often than we'd like to admit. Why? Because as humans, we are drawn to what's familiar, even if that familiarity is harmful. If you grew up in a home where you never knew what to expect, where chaos and unpredictability were the norm, you may not have a baseline for what a healthy relationship even looks like. In fact, it's possible that you don't know how to recognize the red flags because there's nothing in your experience to compare them to. You might not realize that love can be steady, calm, and even, dare I say, boring. And that's exactly what I want to talk about today. How sometimes what we need most is to embrace the boring stability of a healthy relationship. Even when our parents never raised their voices, they might have handed out conditional love, love based on achievements, love that depended on you making them proud. So what do? We grow up to seek partners who make us feel the same way. We enter relationships where we're constantly striving to be enough, always working to feel loved, not realizing that this, too, is a form of abuse. Abuse doesn't always look like physical violence or screaming matches. Sometimes it's the quiet kind, the kind that makes you feel like you're never quite enough, no matter how hard you try. Here's the hard truth. As humans, we crave familiarity, whether it's good for us or not. And if you were abused emotionally or physically as a child, you might find yourself gravitating toward that same kind of love later in life, even though it's toxic. Why? Because our bodies become addicted to it. We crave the drama, the passion, the intensity. The unpredictability of a difficult relationship triggers a release of cortisol and adrenaline that, in a twisted way, keeps us hooked. It's an emotional high that we start to need, and without it, we feel lost or even bored. But here's the thing: a healthy relationship? It is boring, and that's exactly what makes it wonderful. It's boring in the best possible way. In a healthy relationship, you don't argue constantly. Sure, there might be disagreements about big things, but they don't turn into explosive fights. There's no yelling, no slamming doors. You spend your Saturday nights baking cookies together or lounging around watching TV. You can go out with your friends, and your partner isn't blowing up your phone, suspicious of every person you talk to. If you need them to pick you up after a night out, they'll come and get you without guilt-tripping you or making you feel like you owe them. There are no games, no manipulation, just stability, trust, and mutual respect. And you know what? That kind of boring is exactly what gives you the freedom to do anything. With a solid, stable home base, you can try pole dancing, start a garden, or take up a new hobby, knowing that your partner will support you every step of the way. When your relationship is healthy and steady, it becomes the foundation that allows you to explore and grow in ways you never thought possible. But before you can get there, you have to break the cycle. You have to understand why you're drawn to unhealthy relationships in the first place. You have to recognize that drama and chaos aren't signs of love. They're signs of dysfunction. And most of all, you have to believe that healthy, loving relationships exist. They're out there, and they're not the fairy tales we've been led to believe they are. They're real, and they're built on communication, respect, and yes, a bit of that beautiful, wonderful, boring stability. Healing from an abusive past takes time. It's not something you can rush, and you might find that when you enter a healthy relationship, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're expecting the same arguments, the same manipulative behavior, and you might even be bracing yourself for a fight that never comes. That's normal. That's part of the healing process. But the more time you spend in a healthy relationship, the more you'll realize that love doesn't have to hurt. You don't have to be on high alert all the time, and you don't have to prove your worth to anyone. So today, I encourage you to seek out a bit of that boring stability. Find a partner who respects you, who lifts you up without conditions. And if you're already in a healthy relationship, take a moment to appreciate how far you've come. You've broken the cycle, and in that boring, beautiful home, you can do anything. Keep on rising, my friend, because a world of possibilities is waiting for you.